We are all aware of the impact of climate change and how the topic became even worse over the last few years. Especially Central Europe and the European Union face severe impacts in terms of climate change. Typically in Europe, the core issues at stake are extreme stormwater events and precipitation, as well as a very hot microclimate within cities. The landscape as something which is pretty much everything outside of a building is the largest area available to us to implement climate solutions. And this was also laid out very successfully in the global research project Drawdown. The land use sector, which includes the landscape, is a very large-scale sector which can provide very large-scale solutions for climate change. But a lot of these solutions are also applicable to cities and the urban environment. However, we need to change our understanding of what the landscape is about and also consider landscape as something which is actually part of the urban infrastructure. There's a huge economic benefit in these climate solutions. Most recent projections estimate that in the United States alone, the benefit of the climate solution industry rank up to $26 trillion by the year 2030. So considering the economic benefits in order to implement these solutions is a very important strategy when we deal with cities and public decision makers, but also when we try to bring investors on board and developers and convince them of the implementation of these solutions within the landscape. We use a variety of different tools to measure these benefits. For example, the iTree software from the US Forest Service, which can calculate the economic benefits of trees in terms of carbon dioxide sequestration, stormwater runoff avoidance, but also air pollution removal. Climate change is a very large challenge to humanity, but it also provides a very large opportunity for us to evolve and create a better future. But we need to change our understanding about nature and about what landscapes are. When you see these two pictures and I ask about which of these two pictures, which of these two places is actually nature and which of these places is artificial, you probably will all lean towards the left image. But the left image, the Stourhead Garden in England, is a completely man-made environment, whereas the Giant's Causeway to the right is a completely natural expression without any human intervention. So this shows us how distorted our understanding of humanity and our human impact in the landscape is. And we need to change that understanding in order to utilize the potential of nature and the landscape as a meaningful solution for climate change. Landscape is pretty much everything outside a building. That is very important to understand. Landscapes are not just areas where we have public plazas and parks, but also parking lots, leftover areas, garbage sites. All of these areas we don't pay attention to, but are full of potential, are landscape. Very often in urban environments, our context is pretty much similar to an aircraft carrier. It's a flat surface, it's a podium on top of a parking garage, and we don't have any natural soil. This needs to be addressed with a variety of different creative ideas, which is what we focus on at MSP. The role of the urban landscape is very manifold. It goes from microclimate cooling, the urban heat island effect mitigation, stormwater management, the drawdown and sequestration of carbon from the atmosphere, but also the production of food and energy, the enhancement of biodiversity, cleaning air pollutant, and preventing wildfire and flooding, but also slowing down the desertification of cities as we see in Asia. This is important to understand because landscape, especially within cities, has a very important role as infrastructure. We also go through a very important cultural change as a society globally. We are moving away from a production society where human capital is being used to fabricate goods for economic benefits. A lot of these tasks are being supplemented now by automation, by robots, by computers, and the impact will be even further and stronger through the implementation of artificial intelligence. we as humans need to focus on what is still our most important differentiator, and that is our ability to think creatively. It's the soft skill of thinking creatively and implement creative solutions. We are moving from an information age to a conceptual age. And that is a very important understanding, which was framed by the speechwriter of Al Gore. We need to also ask ourselves where we see ourselves as a society. Do we want to be conform and follow the rules and the guidance from above? Or do we educate a range of critical thinking people who might also question the rules and go in a different direction if there are benefits to it? Leadership in companies is also already addressing that. A lot of companies are focusing in their hiring strategies away from people with a master in business administration to people with a master in fine arts, because they learn to think creatively and approach problems not in a linear fashion. There's a direct link between our ability to think creatively and have creative solutions to problems and the economic benefit. The Global Creative Class Index is directly related to the welfare and the economic benefit within countries. Our brain is the most important tool we have available. And through our brain can we envision things which are not existing yet, but we can also envision the improvement of our situation, our life on the planet. There was a very crucial milestone in fine arts when Kazimir Malevich created the Black Square, the first abstract piece of art where every user, every viewer of the art piece would create their own image, an own interpretation. The artist just provided a background, but we as a user completed the art piece. Nature itself has its attraction in a similar phenomena where our mind is being stimulated, our thinking and our emotions are being stimulated. The whiteout effect in the mountains in wintertime makes us think about the boundaries and the extension of space, but also light phenomena like aurora borealis directly impact our emotional and psychological well-being. These are very important aspects which relate directly also to the role of the landscape. The landscape is not just something which is about public parks and trees and flowers. The industrial landscapes across the United States with irrigation circles is as much a landscape which is man-made as the largest mine in the world in Russia. Even the highway spaghetti junctions we see across many countries, these are all landscapes which can be designed and can be utilized in a way which are beneficial for our survival during climate change. This is not just a necessity which is dictated by traffic engineers. The art sector embraced landscape since the 1960s also as a medium. Land art artists like Michael Heiser, for example, embraced the medium of the land as a material for making and creating art. We can see this also in the expression of spaces which are directly connected to the shaping of the land to create interesting spaces, or even within cities, the implementation of color. The tools we have available is our brain. It's the left and the right half of our brain, and we need to learn how to seamlessly interlink these two different areas of our brain to utilize the verbal, analytical, and orderly part of the left brain and the visual, intuitive, and creative part of the right brain. Otherwise, we won't be able to compete and outcompete artificial intelligence over the next few years. In our own office, we utilize multidisciplinary approaches, which includes art to express ideas, design to communicate ideas, engineering to invent, and science to explore. This is a very important aspect in our approach to projects. And when the practice was started by Martha Schwartz in 1980, her idea was really to embrace landscape architecture as something which can be about anything. She came from fine arts and created the Bagel Garden, which utilized purple gravel from fish tanks and bagels from the grocery store to create a landscape, which really then changed the profession. But nowadays, in the times of climate change, landscape must be about everything. Our research project about the virtuous cycle combines seamlessly the input and output flows of different areas within the landscape. Energy, water, materials, waste, CO2, and also food are seamlessly integrated to create a self-sustaining environment where cities and urban environments are not depending on the import of food or energy, but it's a truly self-sufficient environment. And we need to move in that direction in terms of city planning too. I would like to conclude with a few projects which outline on different scales how we approach this. For example, our landscape master plan for the King Khalid Airport in Riyadh created the first carbon neutral airport in the world, which was completely self-sufficient in terms of energy and food production and absorbed all the carbon emissions from the in and outgoing flights through technologies and nature-based solutions within the landscape. But we also transform industrial landscapes. For example, a clay mine, which became a garbage dump near New Jersey City in the United States, into a public park with an artistic approach towards the landscape. Our project for the waterfront park in Zigong utilized different planting beds and softscapes to clean the stormwater runoff of an adjacent mixed-use building, but we also utilized the artistic interpretation of archaeological findings of dinosaurs to stabilize the terraces and create a sculptural expression throughout the landscape. On Grand Canal Square in Dublin, we rolled out literally the red carpet on top of a parking garage to indicate that the development of the Dublin Docklands is now open for investment, and it became the most successful fully rented area during the economic crisis in 2008. Hut Plaza in Washington introduced light canopies as an artistic element, providing shape and cooling down the microclimate so office workers can actually utilize the plaza on top of a parking garage during office hours. And in Minneapolis, again, we were asked to create a public plaza on top of a parking garage with severe load restrictions. We utilized lightweight planting technologies to reinterpret the cultural heritage of these burial mounds from the native Indians in Minnesota as a public space. Place de la République in Paris, we closed off one of the disconnecting roads which prevented people to access the plaza. It was used as a parking lot, and we transformed the Place de la République in the most successful and important public space, which is now a crucial element for public gathering and an important tool for democracy in Paris. Jacob Javits Plaza or Fengming Mountain Park are other examples where the implementation of color and the inspiration of the cultural context inspires landscape architecture, which goes beyond the utilization of planting and trees only. But like in Beijing Technology Business District, we also use planting technologies and nature-based solutions to clean the air and deal with the stormwater runoff to prevent flooding for the investment. And sometimes we also deal with areas where a more artistic approach, due to the lack of sunlight, requires a more creative solution, which is not depending on planting, but utilizes other materials and colors to provide happy and cheerful places for the inhabitants. And lastly, what is currently an ongoing research project along several cities in Europe and also in the Middle East is the implementation of linear urban forests in streets, which become more and more available in terms of available street surface due to self-driving technologies and the implementation of more public transport. And these linear urban forests are connected ecological systems within cities instead of planting individual street trees. To conclude, the work we are doing and the work we all need to implement, we need to use as a guiding principles are the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. The purpose of our work, especially at MSP and within the landscape and urban planning environment, is always the benefit to humanity. At the same time, we need to think globally and always understand that the real side we are dealing with is actually planet Earth. And with this, I would like to conclude and thank you very much for the invitation.